Hey, what is going on everybody? I have got another TF2 video for you today, and the video for you today is going to be a Storytime video. So, Storytime was a Binding of Isaac series where I would play the Binding of Isaac and I would talk about some crazy wacky stories that happened in my life. And I asked, the reason I'm doing it for TF2 now is because recently I found out what Reddit was. Well, not recently, but 2 weeks ago. And I made a post on just any advice or any ideas for videos. And I got some replies saying you should talk more about your life. And so I decided that more people watch the Team Fortress 2 videos, so they also deserve to hear some of my wacky, crazy stories. And I'm not sure what the title is going to be, but the title will be something to do with the story. And just before we get into the story, I'm just going to make a note on the gameplay. This gameplay is a game of me on TF2 Lobby, and it was on TF2 Lobby, and I was playing Spy on, I believe it's Granary, and it was a vanilla only, so I only had the Invisiwatch, only had the revolver, so yes, this is actually my first Invisiwatch gameplay, so you guys might be excited for that. So the gameplay's good, but it's also quite long, because Granary games are kind of like that, and I'm not sure how long it will be in the end, because I will have to edit out the respawns, because they're quite long, but I won't be commenting on the gameplay, because I haven't edited out the respawns yet. But the actual video is about Storytime, and I'm not sure how many of you actually saw the Binding of Isaac Storytimes, but I did say that although I have wacky stories, don't think they're the most wacky stories, because although I wouldn't say my life is boring, I wouldn't say it's the most interesting life you could ever have. So the story today is going to be about an accident that I had, and I actually forgot I had this accident, which is kind of ironic to do with the story really, but I forgot I had this accident. This was about 3 years ago for me, and I'll put you into some context. 3 years ago, in England, it does not, I live in England by the way, in England it does not snow very much, and you know, we have hills around where I live, some big hills, and it's great for sledging. And this was the year that the first time it had snowed in about 5 years, and it was some heavy snow, and everybody in school was excited. And because the snow was so heavy, we got 3 days off school, and that's kind of a major thing when you're young, because you're like, yay, 3 days off school, party or whatever. But basically, I was a little kid, well not little, but 3 years ago, I'm 16 now, so 3 years ago, you can work it out for yourselves. And basically, I was 13 years old, and, you know, classic 13-year-old, excited for the snow, excited for the sledging. To be honest, I'm probably still excited for sledging now. It's probably not snowed as much since that time, because that was some really big snow. But basically, we went to the hill. Everyone was going, because we had the 3 days off, everyone from where I lived was just going to the hill where we lived, and they were just having fun sledging, because this hill is really good for sledging, and it's literally only a mile away. It's a great big walk uphill, which is a huge effort, but it's still only a mile away, and it was great. And I am now going to introduce a friend that I have into the story. So I have a friend, I'm going to call him M, because I don't want to say his full name, so I'm going to call him M. And this friend, he has learning difficulties, or special needs, whatever you want to call it. But he has that, and our mums, M's mum and my mum, are good friends. So when my mum goes to see M's mum, then we play together, or we did play together when we were younger. And although I don't know him, I didn't go to the same school as him or anything like that, we've kind of become good friends, and people really don't understand this M guy because he's got special needs, and people don't give him a chance, and he's actually a really nice guy. So I would play with him. I keep saying play, I would hang out with him, that's a better word. I would hang out with him, and because he had the 3 days off as well, I decided that I would go sledging with him, and we would go sledging together. Because he's seriously a nice guy, even though he's got learning difficulties, he's a really nice guy. So we decided that we'd go sledging up on this hill, and so we went sledging, so we walked all the way up to this sledging, and we had the first 2 days of sledging, and it was great. And it was the third day, and we were going sledging again, and on the third day, this is where the thing happened. And basically, what we were doing is we were just sledging, and there's actually 2 major hills. One hill is in the woods, and it goes downhill, and it's quite steep, and it's quite fast. And then the other hill is on a golf course, and on the golf course, it's like a long, really long, sloping downhill, and you pick up speed as you get down. So you'll pick up a lot of speed by the time you hit the bottom, but it goes flat at the bottom, so you lose your speed in the end. And it was on that hill, and we spent the whole day in the woods, and then we decided, you know what, let's go to this other hill. And I was like, yeah, it's not as good, it's not as fast, but it was alright. And I just realised that this story's a lot shorter than I thought it was, because I'm just not very good at telling stories. I apologise if I'm bad, but basically, we were sledging on that hill, and, you know, we'd hit the bottom, and at the bottom, you would see that a lot of times that you would have to dodge out the way of other people because they were going to hit you, basically. And this is where the crazy bit of the story happens, because due to the story, I didn't know what happened. So basically, the last time I could remember is that me and Em, we were on the sledge together, and we'd hit the bottom, and then the next thing that happened, I woke up on the ground with a crowd of people around me, and I could feel tears going down my face, and I was like, what the hell has just happened? And then Martin, oh god, I've just called him Martin, great, so yeah, he's called Martin, basically, great, yeah, he won't mind, basically, Martin, I was just looking up, and I was like, what happened? And I was in a state of shock still. So basically, I'll tell you what happened is, apparently, according to Martin, that a dad and his young girl were on the sledge together, and the dad was, he was just a big guy. So basically, what they'd done is they'd gone into the back of my legs, and that had buckled me. So if you stand up and then you get someone to do like a karate chop where the knee is in the back of your leg buckles. So apparently that had happened to me with a sledge with quite a lot of weight behind it. So this is a dad and a girl. And I'm not a big person. I was at 13, I wasn't a big person, but apparently they buckled me, and when I buckled, my head had hit the ground quite hard, and although it was snow, it still hit it hard. And apparently I'd been knocked out for about 30 seconds, but because I'd been knocked out, I didn't actually know what happened. I don't remember being told to move out the way. I don't remember being hit, and basically what had happened is I'd been knocked out, and I'd been on the ground for 30 seconds, and I woke up, and I got up, and I felt an incredible pain in my head, and I really did feel bad. I was in a state of shock, because obviously I was stood up at the bottom. The last thing that I can remember, you wake up crying on the ground. That's a bit of a shock for me, and basically I'm trying to work out, because I'm not a very good storyteller, I'm trying to work out the best way to say the next bit of the story. But by the time I had woken up, and Martin had told me, and the realisation had hit me that I'd been knocked out by a sledge, and he told me who was on the sledge, I realised that the dad and the girl, they just weren't there. I said, where are they? They'd gone. So Martin said that apparently that they had walked off after they knocked me out. And I thought, initially I was a bit pissed off at Martin, because I thought, why would you let them walk off? They've just knocked me out. And then realised Martin's got special needs, he wouldn't know what to do in this kind of situation. So they just walked off, and I was surprised that the dad, who is probably a mature adult, walked away from a 13-year-old child knocked out cold on a snowy ground, who had just been hit in the head quite severely. And I wasn't surprised at the time, because apparently at the time I didn't know what was going on. So I decided that I just walked home. I was walking home, and Martin had taken me to his mum, because Martin didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with myself because I was in a state of shock. And Martin took me to his mum, and his mum is actually a nurse, so she said that you need to... She asked Martin what had happened, and she said, right. And I said, well, you know what, I'm just going to go home and go to sleep. And then she said, no, if you've been knocked out, the worst thing to do is sleep because you might not wake up. So she actually took me to the hospital because she was quite concerned because I was in a state of shock still and I was unaware of my surroundings, things like that. So she took me to the hospital, and when I was in the hospital, she called my mum and dad, and they came to the hospital. And then it was about 5 hours that was took out of that day of just me in the hospital. They were doing brain scans on me, they were doing x-rays to check that I hadn't had any bones broken. I was in the hospital for a really long time, and they were really not wanting to let me go because they were concerned about the memory loss, and they were wondering why I didn't know what had happened, so and why I didn't feel any pain when I got hit. So I didn't have any pain in my legs even though I'd been buckled. They were wondering why I couldn't remember what happened. And apparently after I asked my dad about the story, and apparently the first time I saw him I didn't know who he was. And obviously this is a great concern. This is huge memory loss if you don't know who your own family is. And I didn't know at the time because, again, I keep saying this, I was in a state of shock, but the doctors, they did not want to let me go. But they wanted to keep me in overnight because they were worried that if I went to sleep and my brain was still in a bad state, or had any permanent brain damage, which I don't have any permanent brain damage. So that's the lucky part of the story. And you know, after the day after I'd had a sleep on it and I wasn't in this state anymore, I realised that what had happened was really bad, and I wasn't actually allowed because it was 3 days off and then a weekend of, so I could have had 2 more days sledging. I wasn't allowed to go back out sledging because my mum and dad were so worried that I wasn't even allowed to do any sports or anything like that. I just had to sit at home because if I did anything to my head, it could do something bad basically. So I wasn't allowed to do anything else. I had to sit at home for the weekend, and it was just so weird. And my parents were they really felt injustice that the parent had walked off with the kid, left me knocked out cold on the ground. And because I've had memory loss, I could have had permanent brain damage. And if I had had permanent brain damage and they weren't there, then there must have been somebody to blame, you know. It might have been partly my fault, but like I said, I cannot remember being told to move, being told that someone was coming. I didn't even remember getting hit. But imagine if I had had permanent brain damage and the dad and the child had walked away. What would the dad have been charged by if he had got caught, or if he had just left me on the ground with another child that had special needs? What would have happened to that dad if he had been found out that he had walked away from me? I'm thinking in my head what would happen to him if I had permanent brain damage. I would think that he would probably get some quite serious charges, because it's quite a serious offence giving brain damage to a child, and I wouldn't really class it as assault, but it is a hit technically, even if it's with a sledge. But yeah, so that is basically all of the story. I thought the story was going to be longer, but like I said, although it's I think it's one of the better stories that I have, but it's not the wackiest story because, you know, I have quite a normal life. I don't go, I don't go skydiving. I don't do all these crazy extreme sports. So I'm not going to have these crazy stories. But it was just how a normal boy got knocked out and lost his memory, temporarily, and I can't actually remember a lot of things from that day. And it might have done some damage. I might have lost a childhood memory, or I might have lost, I could have lost anything, but I wouldn't be aware of it. From what I can tell from these few years, nothing's happened. I don't think there's any brain effects. I'm still getting good grades in school. I'm still doing everything. So that was the story. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest of this gameplay. Maybe put some chilled out music at the end. So thank you for watching this story time. If you have any stories below, then maybe post them. You know, people might be interested. I would be interested to listen to them. So yeah, and if you want to see more story times, I do have some more wacky or crazy stories. So if you want to see more Team Fortress 2 story time, let me know. And you know what? Have a nice day, and I will see you later, guys. If you enjoyed this Team Fortress 2 video, make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video.